I never talk to anybody. No personal help whatsoever. And I'm not realizing how much I'm internalizing everything. Yeah. I'm lashing out on my teammates. I'm like irritable. I'm angry, but I don't realize it. In my time, I'm like, I'm fine. And in the big scheme of things, it was in God's plan. I was not supposed to play volleyball my senior year because that's when TJ died. Yeah. So there's no way I could have tried to come back from that. There's a few people in our lives who they're in my boat now. They are the sibling, and I'm like, learn from my experience. Do not put that pressure on yourself to be perfect. It's not going to happen.
Substance use disorder touches all our lives, and often we feel hopeless or frustrated in our pursuit to understand how and why it happens.
Welcome to APC Recovery Cafe, where we discuss the topics and trends around substance use, provide education and resources, offer recovery support, and also discuss prevention tactics, all through the stories of the people who have been there.
We invite you to grab your favorite coffee or tea and join us for a variety of guests that will bring understanding, information, connection, and hope.
Together, we can break the stigma and pave a brighter future for each other.
Hey folks, welcome into this episode of APC Recovery Cafe. My name is Art Wimberly. I'm a volunteer at the Addiction Prevention Coalition, a person grateful to be in long-term recovery. And I'm here this morning with the executive director of APC, Carrie Wimberly. Carrie,
Good morning.
how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You want to introduce our guest for today?
I would love to. Today we have Taylin McCarver with us. Taylin is a more than a volunteer at ABC. He's been connected to APC for really as long as I've been there through the was the End Heroin Walk, now the End Addiction Walk. Taylin works at UAB and is a sibling of someone that we've lost to substance use disorder, is a passionate advocate for the cause, and just really looking forward to the conversation today. So thank you, Taylin. Welcome.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be
here.
here.
You're here. Okay, so we always start out with our beverage of choice here. So when we ask you, okay, what could we get you? And you said anything cold and caramel. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what do we have today?
Today we've got the iced caramel macchiato.
Okay, which I've never had.
Yes, it's really a whole lot of milk and then a few shots of espresso. So it's strong but still sweet because of all the milk, but definitely very caramely.
So the caramel is the main thing for you, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything caramel. I also love butterscotch, but Starbucks hurt my heart and did away with it a little while ago. Yeah.
So Carrie already mentioned you go way back years as a volunteer, not just with APC, but with helping educate and inform folks.
So have y'all been at every walk?
I want to say our first one was 2017, maybe. Had it been started at that point?
Yeah, it had been, because, Carrie, you came on board in 2017.
Okay, so the 1 year before that.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So my mom and a few of her teacher friends went to the first one and just kind of stumbled across it. And then the next year is when I first volunteered, and I brought in some volleyball girls from West Alabama.
I remember that.
Yeah, so we brought in some of us to do community service hours.
Yes.
And that's where I kind of got really heavy into I can work with this a little bit more.
Yes.
I can give back a lot more than what I'm realizing I can. Instead of just telling his story, we can impact a lot more. So at that point, a few of my teammates and I came up. My mom and her friends still participated in the walk, but then we volunteered for it. And then from that year on, after we lost TJ, is when we formed Team T.J. So that's when we were realizing, okay, we still have the End Heroin Birmingham walk coming up. We want to do a shirt for him, and at that point it was just End Heroin Birmingham Team T.J. right across the back in red.
Yeah, and we got the picture. We had the picture.
Yep. So did that. We had a lot of people from our family come with that because we lost TJ in August, and that was early February or March.
Yep.
So a lot of people came to that. And then from then on, we've done it every year of starting a new shirt, selling the shirts, bringing that money to APC. So I want to say we were at the first walk,
I
Yes.
think y'all were.
Yeah.
but it was not in the capacity that it is now that we do.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So, okay, so tell us who TJ is.
So TJ was my brother. He was 6 years older than me. Biggest goofball and biggest redneck. When you think about a redneck growing up in Alabama, that was him. He loved to go hunting and fishing, staying outside, just doing anything with his friends and family. Had the biggest smile and the most contagious laugh, but also had his demons from a very early start. I think that the thing that we always want to tell people about TJ is how giving and still self-advocating he was even in his addiction. While he was at Bradford or even other rehabilitation facilities, he was still trying to help other people first before himself. So if they're in their line for medicine or phone calls, he was always going to put people in front of him and let himself go last. So he was super generous and wanted to help others, but then just didn't put that help back in himself all the time. So he was my best friend. He was so loving to everybody around him, but then just couldn't show that self-love back to himself too.
Yeah.
Not uncommon for folks that struggle with substance use
Mm-hmm.
disorder. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about when, as a family, you guys began to notice that his struggles were leading to use?
Mm-hmm. I think my first memory of it wasn't even anything super self-deprecating, I would think. He got caught smoking a cigar in like middle school. And I was like, why would he do that behind the shed in the backyard? Like, that's just weird. Why are you sneaking around it? My parents have always been very supportive of me and TJ of, we're going to support you and would rather you be honest with us instead of trying to sneak around everything and then finding out after it. And that's where we're going to be more hurt and disappointed.
Right.
So that was my first memory of like, why is he trying to be sneaky with this? But this is before he even graduated high school.
Okay.
So when he graduated high school, I was in 6th grade and can remember making him a little construction piece of paper with old family pictures and was like, I'm going to miss you so much and put this in your dorm room, knowing a 18-year-old boy is probably not going to put that in his college dorm room from his little sister. So he went to Shelton State in Tuscaloosa. He could have gone to Auburn for bass fishing, but, you know, it wasn't in God's plan to go that way. So in that point of his freshman year, he started, to our knowledge, experimenting with just, smoking marijuana, maybe a few pills here and there. And then one of his friends was killed in a car accident in the parking lot of their apartment unit.
Oh, gosh.
So he was ejected from the car flipped, and he passed away. And from that point on is when we really started noticing that he was withdrawing a little bit from us, from everybody else. Wasn't as bubbly and happy-go-lucky as he usually was, but still not raising alarms to the point of
there's a problem.
Yeah, there's definitely a problem. The first time I know that there was something going on, I was downstairs with one of my best friends, still super close with us. She's part of Team T.J. every year too. We were downstairs in our little man cave watching a movie. It's girls' night out. Like, we're just hanging out at my parents' house, thinking that we're on top of the world. And next thing I know, my mom is coming down the stairs slinging, my dad had grilled steak and potatoes. She's like slinging our steak and potatoes in a Ziploc bag. And she's like, y'all are going to Faith's house. And I'm like, why are we going to Faith's house? I'm staying at, she's coming over here. We're hanging out. We're in the movie room. Why are we going down here? And when I went outside, I saw TJ on the back of his truck. He's supposed to be in Tuscaloosa. Saw him on the back of the truck. And then his girlfriend at the time was there too. So I'm like, why are they here? What is going on? Kind of piecing it together a little bit. And my parents at the time, because this is 7th, 8th grade for me. Yeah. So they still wanted to kind of protect me from it, but have always been open about it. And even now, our philosophy is if you want the truth, we're going to tell you. So they sent us to Faith's house. They gave her mom a brief rundown to kind of like, she's probably going to ask questions. This is what's going on. So it was just, TJ didn't make very wise decisions. mom and dad are finding out about it. And now we've got to kind of cross that bridge. So at the time, I think he had academically withdrawn himself from Shelton State, but still telling us, I'm passing all these classes. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
We're familiar.
Very
with
familiar
our
with
oldest
this.
Son.
Yeah.
This is going way back. We've been dealing with this for about 24 years in our family.
Mm-hmm.
But that very similar thing happened to our oldest son when he went off to his first semester or two at school.
Yep.
And we were getting all these signs, everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was already collapsed.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's exactly how it was with TJ. And like, for me, I'm still thinking he's the best guy ever. Like
Right.
he can do no wrong to me. But then it was like, I'm starting to understand, why are mom and dad so mad at you all the time? And kind of like just questioning it in myself of, well, what happened? So then once he had withdrawn himself from Shelton, it just kind of went downhill from there. He was dealing with pot and maybe ecstasy, Molly. Like, he started getting into the dealing because obviously you're going to Shelton, we're paying for school, so we're not going to pay for it. It's up to you. Not kind of like figure it out yourself, but I mean, we're not going to support your decision to not be in school when that's what we sent you there for.
Yeah.
So
did he come back home, or did he stay wherever he was?
I think he stayed there for a year.
Okay.
That part's kind of hazy to me. Like, I pick up a little bit of memories from it, but not necessarily the full story.
Yeah.
Dad can tell you the full rundown of it, where he was, who he was staying with.
Right.
So I can't exactly remember how long he stayed there. He came back for a little bit, and then we're getting into the whole, you're not going to be staying here unless you can pass a drug test. And at that point, we're just concerned about marijuana because that's all we know in our full extent.
Yeah.
So then you get into I'm starting to get into high school and really start noticing and asking questions, and then we're getting the not dare, but some of the more informed speakers to come to high school, and I'm like, okay, this is super familiar.
Yeah.
So 9th grade, the next specific thing I remember is I was on the JV volleyball team, and we were playing Pelham. So Thompson and Pelham was like our big rivalry before Thompson became the Thompson it is now.
Yes.
Thompson and Pelham was our big rivalry. So I'm excited. This is my first time playing with the high school team. TJ shows up. Like, he's excited for me. He had come in from Tuscaloosa. We win the game, but we had to stay and watch varsity and then help clean up, yada, yada, yada. So my mom and I are taking a friend of ours home, and when we turn the corner of, I can still see it clear as day, when we turn the corner of going to her house to drop her off, we see cop cars. So we're like, oh, somebody got pulled over. We'll respect the rights of the road and kind of veer off. Well, then my mom distinctly remembers turning and seeing TJ in the back of the cop car. And this is like an hour after he had just left my volleyball tournament and game. I didn't really pick up that it was him. So my mom is pulling off the side of the road like, what is going on? And then that's when I see his truck. So I'm just kind of like, okay, so now it's more of, you've gotten in trouble with school, but now you're getting arrested.
Yeah.
And my dad was a fire medic for my whole life, so we've always been very respectful of first responders.
Right.
So I'm like, what did you do? Like, oh no, what did you do to get in this situation?
Yeah.
So then we go and drop my friend off, and then that's when we start realizing he had gotten pulled over because he was on the top list for drug wanted list.
Oh, gosh.
He was dealing more, getting a little bit more into the paraphernalia. I don't remember at that point if it was with cocaine or getting just a little bit heavier. So at that point, it's getting a little bit stronger. So I think that year was when we finally got him to agree to go to the Anchorage in Albany, Georgia.
Okay.
Flash forward 10 years now, one of my best friends' family runs that, and we had no idea about it.
Really?
Yeah. So it's super cool to kind of put those puzzle pieces together now. But he went to the Anchorage. That was probably the best thing that could have happened to him. With the Anchorage, he has to call and say, I need help. Like, we can't say, we're dropping our son off.
Yep.
Take him and please help him.
Yep.
So we drop him off. He was at the Anchorage maybe a few months. We would go down there and visit him. And at that point, this is where like my hobby of volleyball and his needing help kind of intermingled because they had sand courts there. So TJ, in all of the letters he wrote us, he's like, yeah, we're playing volleyball. Maybe I can get involved in like a recreational league when I come home. You know, all the guys are super supportive. I'm talking about you all the time. So when I go visit, then they want to play volleyball. And I'm like, okay, I'm here to visit my brother. And
Yes,
if this is going to help y'all and give you some sort of joy of you're not seeing your family, but we can play volleyball, sure.
Yeah.
So I think really, really heavy of finding out about his issues were my 9th grade year, and then it just kind of went from there.
Yeah.
So 10th through 12th grade, he was in a healthy relationship. So it was still just like marijuana here and there. The big scheme of things now, there were times where I would literally pray to be like, can you please just smoke pot? Like, don't do heroin. Just please just smoke pot. Like,
Right.
and we didn't want him to do anything, but in the big scheme of things, I'm like, can you please just do that and just leave it at that? So he was in a healthy relationship then. When I went to college, I would say it was 2015. So he passed away in 2010, or not 2010, excuse me, 2018. And he was probably in the heaviest part of his addiction from 2014 to 2018.
Okay.
So the relationship ended. He just started battling internal conflict with himself. And then that's when he started getting more into heroin. Okay. So at that point, I'm away from home. I went to West Alabama, so I'm essentially right down the road, but still far enough away. And I had a job of my own to play volleyball in college. So that's when it was getting really heavy of when I was away. And I think that was the hardest part because obviously my parents want to shield me a little bit to make sure I'm getting my job done, but everything's hitting the fan at home.
Yeah.
So I would say for sure starting to notice it when I was in 7th grade, so maybe 2010.
Yeah.
Up until 2018 when he passed away in August.
Yeah.
Long story short.
Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, we run this family support group, and so most of the people in there are parents or spouses, but every once in a while we'll have siblings come in, you know, and I know in our family, you know, we have the sons that struggled, and then we have, you know, other sons, you know, stepdaughter that, you know, their relationship with the sons that are struggling is always a precarious, you know, some are angry, some are just scared to death, some are withdrawn, you know. Mm-hmm. So the sibling, you know, this is a kind of a category that we don't talk a lot about. Mm-hmm. But so can you just talk a little bit about, you know, and you already have started that, but how was that, you know, because I know we were just talking about you're an Enneagram 2, mm-hmm. So the helper, the compassionate, and I know that you're close with your parents, mm-hmm. and so just talk a little bit about how that kind of evolved as his use continued.
Emotional roller coaster.
Yeah. That's putting it lightly. With me being Enneagram 2, I'm very drawn to wanting to help.
Yes.
I'm wanting to help my parents. I'm wanting to help TJ.
Yes.
Yeah.
I put myself last in any situation.
Yeah.
Even with now, I'm going to put my family first, my friends first, my students first with working at UAB, and then I'll worry about me.
Yeah.
Trying to find that fine line of he's still confiding in me.
Yes.
I want to keep that trust with him so he'll keep reaching out to us.
Yes.
But then keeping that trust with my parents of what is he telling you that he's not telling us?
Yeah.
So, and there's still stuff that I took to the grave with him.
Yeah.
Like there's some stuff that it wasn't necessarily life or death
right.
for him, or it wasn't immediately I have to tell somebody.
Yeah.
There was also things that I did have to tell them. And trying to find that fine line of when I needed to cross that line.
Yes.
Was hard. And especially with me going away to college, you're finding out your identity and really who you are in a normal situation, much less my brother is in active addiction. Yes. My parents are now empty nesters, but really dealing with somebody that has a dependency on something that they can't help.
Yep.
Trying to find that fine line was hard, but he confided in me a lot. And I can distinctly remember the stereotypical intervention. We wake him up right out of bed. All the grandparents are sitting around the couch. It was with, I'll never forget him. It was with Mr. Jeremy from Bradford.
Yes.
And he's like, the night before we're at my parents' house and he's setting up who is TJ going to sit by, who's going to start talking when. But then he said, who is he least likely to hurt? And everybody's like, well, that's Taylin. Like, nothing's going to happen. If he gets mad, he's going to hear things he doesn't want to hear. He does not want to get help.
Yeah.
So who is he least likely to strike at or get mad if we have to evacuate the room?
Yeah.
So it was me, and I'm like, oh crap! Like, I don't want him to ever.
Yeah.
Well, it's a very tender age.
Yes. Yeah, it was hard. But I took on that role, and we still have all of the intervention letters now.
Oh gosh.
So I was sitting right next to him. Let's say I'm right here. My paternal grandmother is on the other side, so he's between us. And at one point, he did get mad, and they had to clear the room. And I'm like, for the love of God, please just listen to us. Like, we're not mad at you. We just want you to get help and get better for all of us.
Yeah.
I think it's, I know in our situation, I've seen it so many times, it is so difficult for family members and loved ones to watch that person struggle, and then when help is offered, even in the way that y'all were doing it, in a loving, tender, kind, firm way, to see them reject that is so nonsensical.
Yeah,
to
and
us.
like,
we can't make sense of it. Yeah.
Even now, I can't, and I take a lot of guilt, honestly. I don't really talk about it a whole lot, but in that letter, I was like, if you do not get clean, you will not be an uncle to my kids. And now he doesn't even get the opportunity to do that, which was years before his passing. But it was hard, and then especially hard whenever we finally had to, like, break free from it. Like, we will fight to the death to get you help, but we cannot until you're ready to do that. So
one of the things we talk about in family support is loved, whether it's parents or siblings, is you almost have to, you begin to have the mantra is, we will always love you. We'll never not love you, but the way we help has to change. Yeah.
And I think it was hard, kind of understanding of, like, how did we get to this point?
Yeah.
How are we raised the exact same, so different in our personalities, but this is how we are now? I think the biggest thing for me was I was mad, but I kept it internalized a lot, not realizing how much I did. My junior year of college, it was really bad. That was when he was in the heaviest part of his addiction. He came down to Livingston with my parents, and he is, like, nodding off at the table.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can't, like, get it together to come see me play volleyball. There's pictures of me and him from when I was a freshman in college, and he's skinnier than I am.
Yeah.
So, and looking back at it now, I'm like, I don't want to look at those pictures where he doesn't look like himself. So, I was mad, but I also was still on the responsibility role of putting pressure on myself to be the perfect sibling.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the perfect daughter.
Yes.
They're having to worry too much about him, so I have to be perfect in everything.
So your self-care kind of goes out the door.
Wow.
In
Yep.
a way. Yeah.
Yep. So, and my parents always told me, like, they all are two different kids. Like, we don't expect that from you. You can still make mistakes.
Right.
And in my head,
That's
I'm like,
great.
no, I can't. Like, you have too much to worry about.
Yep.
There was a time where he got in a car accident. I can't tell you how many cars he totaled, but it was a car accident where he was going down 65 and was obviously high on something. Who knows what at that point. And it happened the night before one of my volleyball games. I didn't find out about it. So my parents came to every single home game of mine in Livingston. Hour and 45-minute drive, not too bad. This is like a Saturday game. So it's getting closer to, like, the first set starting, and I always spotted them. Our gym was tiny little country college. So I always spotted them when they came through the door. And at that point, they're not there. The first set starting, we're halfway through the first set, and I'm like, where are my parents? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
They finally show up, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's traffic. Going through Tuscaloosa, McFarland's always got something going on, so maybe there was traffic. We win the game. Everything's great. I check my phone after our post-game talk with our coaches and stuff, and I check my phone in the locker room before I go change to go eat with my parents and grandparents. And TJ had sent pictures of his wrecked car and his head from where his head went through the windshield, and I'm like, what is happening? So I go outside, and I'm immediately pissed at my parents. And I'm like, why did y'all not tell me this? Well, we didn't want to bring you down. We didn't want you to worry about this. You had a game. It's been a really good season for you. And I'm mad. I'm like, I still need to know these things about him. I would rather know about it and be mad in that situation than to find out about it later. All going back to how they raised us of be honest with us up front.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we'll worry about it afterwards. Yeah. So that was pretty hard for me. And even now, like my parents and I have talked about it since he's passed away of it was never personal towards you. I'm mad at the situation, but I'm going to handle it in that time. I put on a lot of pressure to myself to handle everything, even with them. So if something was going on with me, honors day with college, a great volleyball game, I had just had a good week at school, I passed this big kinesiology test, something was going to happen with him. Junior year of college, honors day, they're at the beach, and my dad walks away and is on the phone, and I can tell that he's agitated. So I'm like, what now? Anytime anything good is happening with me, something's going to happen. In TJ's mindset, they're only worried about me. Y'all love her more. You do more for her. You do this. She got a new car. And my parents are like, well, she got a new car because she got a scholarship to college. That was the deal for you, but you didn't want to do that.
Right.
So then that's where I'm like, how dare you, almost.
Yeah.
How dare you think that they love me and do more for me when everything comes back to you somehow?
Right. I mean, it just changes the family dynamics.
Yeah,
it really does.
I mean,
and the sibling that is not struggling carries such an emotion, or can carry a real emotional weight. And then it's it's the syndrome of the good child and the bad child that both of the children struggle with.
Yeah.
Even if it's not set up that way in a family system.
Yeah. And I think growing up, there was always that good child, bad child, but we didn't really TJ was going to be the troublemaker. I was the
compliant.
I'm doing great in school.
Achiever.
Yeah. And now that I think about it, I'm like, well, signs were kind of always there of he was going to be the one to test his limits a little bit more.
Push the boundaries.
Let me ask you a question, and please don't think of this as a critique at all. But knowing what you know now as an individual, as a sibling, or as a family, would there be anything that you would do differently? Not towards him.
With myself?
Yeah, in terms of self-care. Like, for instance, it took us a couple of years in our journey to figure out, okay, you know what? We really need a lot of outside help, whether it's a therapist, a counselor, or a support group. Looking back, if you were talking to another family member or something today, would you say, I probably would have done this earlier or different or something? Not because I think it'll save my brother. I wish it would, but yeah.
It's for your mental health.
Yeah. I never talked to anybody.
Okay.
No personal help whatsoever, and that's what I would have changed for sure. I ended up playing 3 of my 4 years of college volleyball, and my coach and I came to the mutual decision of something is not right. And I'm not realizing how much I'm internalizing everything. Yeah. I'm lashing out on my teammates. I'm irritable. I'm angry, but I don't realize it. In my time, I'm like, I'm fine.
Yep.
I'm fine. Y'all are just thinking differently of me.
Yeah.
So I would have gotten help. And in the big scheme of things, it was in God's plan. I was not supposed to play volleyball my senior year because that's when TJ died. Yeah. So there's no way I could have tried to come back from that. I was always big on, I know my parents are talking to people. They're in the support groups up here in Bradford. It's easy for them to come and talk with my grandparents and everybody get on the same page up there. But for me, I'm on a completely different timeline and schedule. So I think really I would have talked to somebody other than who was immediately in the fire, like an outside source.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what I would have done differently for sure.
Yeah.
But then in the big scheme of things, I'm like, would it have helped?
Right.
Might not have changed his course.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's again, as we talked about earlier, one of the things that kind of disappears for family members is lack of taking care of themselves in some healthy ways, because the focus is so much on the crisis of our loved one who's struggling. And it's a big deal you get immersed in it so quickly, and then you forget, I really do need to look for some outside help in this if I'm going to maintain some sanity and some joy in life.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, because you, as you've already said, you were actually active in a way, maybe not just with APC in the walk, but you were active before he passed, right? But since then, y'all have not only continued Team T.J., but you've been able to tell the story a lot. Talk about, as a family, maybe, how did that begin to develop for you guys, where you felt like you were comfortable telling the story?
Yeah, that shift into advocacy, really.
Yeah, I think we were from day one, because my dad had been through it as a son and now as a father. So I think we were from day one, and a lot of our family members didn't agree with it. We're going to be open. Yeah. Well, what are we going to tell people whenever they think this? He's an addict. He's not making good choices. Like, we're going to be honest about it. So it was from day one that if we can use his poor decisions to help somebody else realize, like, if you do not change, this is the path we're going on. So I think it was from day one that we were ready for that. But then immediately when he passed away, we told Pastor Bruce, be brutal in the funeral setting. I wish that we could have recorded, because so many people were like, that was life-changing. I'm not in addiction, but hearing that, like, he was hard. There were people there that were in active addiction. There were people there who were in recovery. We were just like, if you can save one life from telling his life story, do it, at whatever cost. So if that means that we have to be out of our comfort zone and be a little bit more vulnerable, not a problem for us. So we've been like that since day one. And even me going back to college, and, some of my friends are like, well, let's go to a party. I'm like, that's not necessarily the environment I need to be in right now, but I still want to live the college experience, so I want to go out and hang out with them. Even some friends of mine who have reached out, or I know that they're battling something, I reach out and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And that's putting it back on myself to help them, not necessarily to fix them, but to help let them know that somebody else is there, because I know there were people there for TJ whenever we had to cut those ties that helped him stay on track with it. They're just trying to help you. They love you. They're trying to get you back on the right track, get you back on your feet. So I think for me to try to be that person to help them know it's not the world against you.
Yeah.
And I think to just normalize it.
That really is a big part of
really
what APC tries to do. Is, as Carrie said earlier, reducing stigma, normalize it as best you can, so that people can talk earlier about it. Yeah.
I mean, if we can get to the place where, the way that people talk about diabetes, or we're getting better around mental health, we're not there yet, but talking about depression, anxiety, if we can get to the place that people will begin to see in themselves, break through the denial. I'm struggling with substances. We do prevention training, and we always start out with, we all have a relationship with substances. We have a relationship with coffee. We have a relationship with sugar. We never want the substance to get the power in that relationship. If we can begin to change that narrative so that it's not a moral failure for us to begin to have attachments physically and emotionally to substances, so we can recognize that earlier and ask for help, I think we really can begin to break the cycle that we're in today in this country.
And I really think that we started noticing a lot more people reaching out to me specifically, a lot of people that were TJ's age, or a lot of people that were my age, because they're realizing how open we are about it. They feel comfortable coming to us.
Yes.
So
just beautiful.
And even a lot more people that are my parents' age, I'm struggling with this. My child is struggling with this. My sister's struggling with this. but I didn't want to talk about it. So
Yes.
I wanted to keep it hush hush and make everybody think we're this perfect cookie cutter family. And we're
Yes.
like, there are more people impacted it than just us.
Yes.
Your next door neighbor probably has something going on. Your best friend probably has something going on.
Yeah.
So I think because we've been so honest about it,
Yes.
it makes people comfortable to come back and talk to us.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to continue to do.
Yeah.
Any opportunity that APC has given me specifically or
Yes.
my family to talk about, we're going to say yes.
Yes. And thank you for that, because
always.
it's, we do get requests for news and for articles and for other opportunities. And they specifically ask for families that have lost someone or families with people that are in active addiction. And, there's not that many, we know a lot of families
That are
where
impacted.
we're connected, but, and understandably,
Yeah.
many of those families don't feel comfortable, speaking out and outing themselves.
Yep.
But you guys have always said yes. I try not to overuse you
No, that's
or take advantage of that, but I appreciate that, because, like, again, not all families are there, but also it gives people a chance to really humanize.
you're not in it alone.
What would you say if you could wave a magic wand? How would you want APC or other entities to support and help you guys? Is there anything that you would love to do that we could come alongside you? Ever brainstorm? Ever dreamed big about anything? Or
If it were up to me and I had the perfect magic wand, I'd get every heroin dealer off the street.
Yeah.
I don't know, because there's times where I think I could do this for a living. I can talk about him all day.
Well, I'm having a dream. Like I said, I talked to your mom at the walk, and she's like, "Taylin's going to work for y'all at some point." I said, "I'm ready." So
I think that I know that what I'm doing is not permanent for me. So I've always known that I want to give back somehow. And if it's by me telling my story and helping other people prevent what we've gone through, I think that would be the perfect dream for me.
so stop. Let's pause for a second, because I want you to tell more about what you're doing.
Yes,
in your
yes.
training. Okay,
Yeah.
we got a hint of it.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'd like to hear more about that, because in a sense you kind of are in the wellness and prevention.
You're in a helping
kind of end
field.
of it in a
Yeah.
way. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I kind of talked about it whenever I mentioned I was doing an OT internship for occupational therapy the same semester. I had just gotten one semester away from getting a degree in exercise science. Well, then TJ died, and I'm like, I cannot do this. I'm surrounded in a nursing home. I'm going home and surrounded by I cannot do this every day. But I'm not about to change my major.
Yeah.
I only have 2 classes left, and I'm not going to change my major. So I got my degree in exercise science, came home, and I coached volleyball at Thompson for a year. And even then, just getting that love of the game back, because from me quitting volleyball, I was mad at the situation with TJ. I was mad at myself. And I know in the big scheme of things, I was not meant to play my senior year.
Right.
So I'm getting the love of the game back and helping them realize it. Not knowing that 3 individuals on my team had a family member pass away, not from addiction, but
Yeah.
I'm getting back connected with them. So then I decided to get my master's in student affairs administration that October or so. Start the master's in January of 2020.
Oh gosh.
So it's all online already. I'm getting it at West Alabama again, so it's all online already. But then COVID hit, so I'm like diving straight into it. I finished my master's in 11 months. That was it.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm like, well, I might as well just knock it out. I like school. I've always put that pressure on myself I know I'm good academically, so I can get it done. That whole time I knew I was going to revert back to athletic advising. So when I was being recruited for volleyball, I went on a visit to Mississippi State. The academic advisement and resources they had for them were out of this world. I mean, it's an SEC school, but there's somebody there reminding you, take this quiz, go to this class. And I'm like,
wow,
there were people for that? Why don't you just do that yourself? And not really thinking SEC football players don't really care about that when you've got some bigger people on you. And my dad told me, he was like, well, what are you going to do with this master's? And I was like, I don't know. I just think I need to give back somehow. And he's like, well, why don't you look into athletic advising? I wanted a smaller school, so I didn't end up going to Mississippi State or anything, but wanted the smaller school. I didn't have those resources. So it was me, my professors, and my coach.
Yeah.
So I was like, I could be that person. And I know whenever they have injuries or they're going through stuff at home, they're putting that pressure on themselves. I can be there if I've been in your shoes.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can tell me that is going to not make me want to help you.
Yeah.
Plus, you always got this particular challenge over the last couple of decades that if there is a sports injury or maybe a mental health issue, too often in the past, the first resort was, well, here's a pill.
Yep.
Right. And so we've had to really learn about that and re-educate ourselves about that.
So I did an internship at the University of Memphis. And then I got a job at North Alabama doing the same thing. I'm still working with student athletes, primarily with defense for football players, baseball team, women's soccer team, and women's basketball team. So I have all of those students.
Yeah. Wow.
So at UNA, it's a smaller school, and they had just transitioned to D1. So there were only 2 advisors. So it's me and Miss Sherry, and we're knocking out all the athletes and trying to help everybody. So in a sense, I'm reverting back to being an Enneagram 2, and I'm being the helper. So give me your problems. If you need to put it on somebody, put it on me. Did athletic advising for a year and a half, and I was like, I need a break from athletes. I need a little bit of a break. Like it just got to be a lot. So I'm still in academic advising at UAB in the School of Education with kinesiology students, which is what my bachelor's is in.
Oh, wow.
So it's just it's full circle. And we tell them every time we have an orientation, we've got 3 different appointments. We have 15-minute appointments, which are come in, get your classes, and leave. 30-minute appointments, we're going to go a little bit more into your plan for your degree. 45-minute, knock down, drag out, bring out the tissues. So
we got a granddaughter heading to UAB
yes.
in a couple of months.
Yep.
I need to get her over there.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be happy to help her. So I always try and be open and have, inspirational stickers or a sign on my wall that says every student can learn, just not in the same way or the same day. So
love that.
I think even just going back to addiction recovery, everybody can do it, just
Yes.
not in the same way and not in the same
same
day.
day.
One size doesn't fit all.
Yep.
Ever.
It's
And-
interesting because you're kind of like you're on the nexus with prevention and recovery.
Yes.
Is that-
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had lots of students tell me that something's going on with them.
Yeah.
Something's going on with my roommate. I don't know what to do. So knowing those resources,
Yeah.
they've got the UAB Center for Recovery
Yeah.
right across the street from us.
Yes.
So I'm more than happy to point them in that direction.
Yeah.
Y'all don't know about it. In my interview with UAB, they're like, how do you give back to the community? And I'm like, well, if I can do anything with the School of Education and APC, I'm going to do it. I want to do it. So I'm always like, if I can do something to bring awareness to that of you're in a heavy degree, you have a lot of classes going on, don't go down that street because it's not going to end up well.
Yeah. Wow.
So I think I've always kind of kept that in my back of I've gone through something and I can help them,
Yes.
but it's also their experience too.
Yep.
So
Yes.
and I just try and be as honest as I can be so that they feel comfortable with telling me anything.
Yeah.
There's times where students come in and they don't want anything to do with academics. I have a candy jar on my desk at UNA. I had a snack bowl. It was like chips, crackers, goldfish, gummies, and they would literally just be like, "Hey, Miss Taylin, I'm just coming to get food."
Yeah.
Some of those kids, I'm not realizing if they're not traveling with the team, they're not eating.
Yeah.
So I'm like, take what you need.
Yes.
So I try and still have that. And my parents have always instilled that in me. My mom being a first grade teacher, she's like, there's heartbreaking cases.
Yeah.
You can love on them as much as you can while they're there in front of you, but when they leave, you have no idea what's going on. So I think just trying to be that strong, consistent impact for them while they're with me. That way they know they can come back.
You didn't have a chance if you're type 2 and your mother was a school teacher and your father was fireman medic.
Done for.
You didn't have a chance.
Done for. I had to help people.
Yeah,
It was in my blood.
Yeah.
Yep.
But there's a beautiful story emerging here out of the tragedy of your brother.
Yes.
With not only your kind of your drive to help,
Right.
but the education, the experience, and now the passion to kind of drive that to whatever level you can.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I have to take the opportunity just to say thank you, for what you guys do each and every day, just all that you've mentioned, being a safe space for people, choosing to be open and honest from the beginning so that people do feel like they could trust you with their stories and open up. That's so huge. And I know that's a choice, and sometimes that comes with repercussions, and it's hard. And we've tried to do the same, and, there's good days and bad days with that. But the way that you have supported APC and the walk, I mean, I know you guys have been like in the top 3 fundraisers every year this year.
I'm gunning for 10,000. I'm going to get it one day. I'm going to get it.
I actually think I stumbled onto the media interview for y'all this year. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
I was walking around doing my thing, and I think I
just walked in.
Yeah, I think they were interviewing. I think I got right in the middle of it somehow.
Not like that's ever happened before or anything.
Not
okay,
all.
we'll take
Type
it.
7.
Yep.
Okay.
And then so we got to wrap up. So we always like to ask people if there's somebody out there that's struggling, what would you say to them?
Not to give up. If you're in one rehab program and you need to go to another, keep fighting.
Let's do it.
Not every situation is going to be, I go to rehab, I'm cured, that's it. Don't be afraid to tell people that you're in active addiction. I think a big thing with us was when TJ would have to go to the doctor, he's not going to tell them that he's using opioids, so he can be given Loratab. So don't be afraid to tell people. More people are going through what you are than you realize.
Yes.
Obviously, use to your discretion of how much open you want to be. If you don't know who to go to, you can always start out with my family.
Yep. Great.
You can, at the drop of a hat, it could be in the middle of the night. I know my dad has referred somebody that we knew personally to Lauren Sisler because she had both of her parents pass away in the same. So we try and use our resources as much as you can. So if you don't know where to start, you can always start with our family, and not to give up and know that you're not a lost cause. Yeah. And that your addiction does not define you. There's more to you than what you're going through right now.
Beautiful. Yeah.
How do they get to you?
Well, I'm not going to blurt out my cell phone number.
No, probably not.
But we can do Facebook, Instagram.
Yep.
We can reach out to APC directly with Miss Carrie. She's navigated people to us all the time. Facebook or Instagram is just Taylin McCarver.
Okay.
Email.
Yep.
I'm at UAB in the School of Education if you need me.
Yes.
Anything, anytime, any place.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your passion. Having lost loved ones, I know that's a void that's never filled. It's a grief journey that continues, but taking that grief and turning it towards helping is a beautiful thing. So we appreciate you.
Absolutely. Always happy to do it.
Yep.
Taylor, thanks again. I think we're going to have you back.
Yes.
I'm always ready for it.
Great. Folks, thanks for joining us this time for this episode of APC Recovery Cafe. We hope to see you soon.
One of the things that APC is known for is being a connector, because we're stronger together.
Not only are we there for those who are suffering through substance use disorder, but we're there for family members, and we really take our job seriously.
We all have personal reason why we're in this field. We're changing people's lives one community at a time.